How you doing, everybody? Listen, I hope you're all well. It's October the 1st, 2014, and it's just after lunchtime. And what prompted this thing was one of the one of the uh, one of the responses to the last video I made there yesterday. That's what prompted this, and it's about me being cynical. And lots of people say that about me. You're very cynical. You're very negative about things. And if I'm in good form, I tell them, look, the way it is very, very simple. I grew up in a world, and I was told X about the world. This is the way it is, but it's really Y. And the people who told me X know that it is Y. I was told this from I was a child. These are people who are wise to the world, knew the ways of the world, knew a reasonable amount about it. But from the very top to the very bottom, they told me barefaced lies. And it's taken me most of my life to realise that. And what brought this sort of, I was thinking last night before I went to bed, I was just thinking about, again, see, you, no matter what it is in life, you can only talk to your own human experience, your own little experiences about it. And the way it was is, I'm a young fella selling papers in Belfast. I met some extraordinary people. I think some of the most extraordinary people I met. But I was in this left-wing pub/club one day down at the docks in Belfast. I shouldn't have been there, but I went in anyway because I was fascinated by some of the characters you'd meet there. You meet boys off boats and all that, you know what I mean? And money to these boys, like that hit town and they just spend money like it was, so you'd get good tips and things like that from them. But anyway, went in and I have to give a bit of background here. Up at that, I'm about 13 or 14 at the time, and I wanted some pocket money, like, you know. Selling papers was a good way of getting it, and you always had a few pounds about you, a few bob, only pounds, but you'd have a few bob about you. And anyway, I'm in selling newspapers in this club, and what happened was I met this old man, and he saw that I had a book in my pocket, and the book was about the Battle of Britain, because you have to imagine, like, this would be the end of the 50s, beginning of the 60s in Belfast. I think it was around 1962 or something like that, and just after the war. War was only over like 10, 15 years, and so it's very, very fresh in everybody's mind, the Second World War. And I had this book about the Battle of Britain, and at that stage I was of the impression, the way I was told it was, the Brits stroke the English had won the Second World War. It hinged on the Battle of Britain, and the fighter pilots had won it. You know, the Douglas Bader types had won it with their Victoria Crosses and their George Crosses and their DSOs and bars and all that sort of nonsense. Okay, that was that. Then parts of it referred then to the Allied invasion and all the rest of it, you know, D-Day and all that sort of stuff. Again, it was British propaganda essentially. And then to a lesser extent, I came across American propaganda through American comics and various things like that, comic books. I saw that, so I knew a little bit about that. So anyway, I had the book, and it was about the Battle of Britain, and I had it in my pocket. It was a paperback thing, and I had it in my pocket. And the man said to me, this old fella, he was in his 60s, he was smoking a pipe, and he said to me, do you know what propaganda is, son? I said, I do. Well, I think I do. And he said, that's propaganda. That's propaganda. So I didn't really know what to say. I mean, I couldn't engage in argument, you know. It was only, my experience of the world was very, very slender. Like, but I said, I don't think so. I said, you know, the guys who wrote that, must be facts like that. Must have given them the medals and all that. No, I'm not talking about that, he said. I'm talking about what the general thrust of it is. I bet you they said that they won the Second World War, effectively. Yeah, I said something like that, yeah. And he said, who do you think won the Second World War? And I said, I think it was the Allies. I think it was a combination of a whole lot of them. No, he said, it wasn't like that at all, son. He said, I'm going to leave a book for you. Have a read of it. But it's a propaganda book, but at least they tell you in the book it's propaganda. And it was a Russian book. The Russian book was called, in English, The Great Patriotic War. And he left it behind the bar for me the next time I was in, and I got it. I got it off one of the barmen. Oh, yeah, they've left a little book for you. And give me the little book. Anyway, I took it home, read it, and I left it back. That was the arrangement, that I read it and give it back to him. And I read it and give it back to him. I was stunned, absolutely stunned. I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. Because I had protested with him when he said about what he'd said. Told me the Russians had won the Second World War. The Soviets had won the Second World War. I said, not at all. Not at all. Bullshit, it's all bullshit. No. So anyway, he said, read this book and then come back and we'll discuss it. Of course, I read the book, but things happened and I never went back to the place. But it made me very, very aware that what I had been fed up until then was a Western propagandizing approach. 3 days ago, I was down in a bookshop in the city centre of Dublin, big bookshop, Dawson Street. I go in and I'm up looking at history, because I'm all the history books you could ever fucking imagine. And I'm looking at, and I glanced at a section on military history to do with the Second World War. It was about, I'd say 100 books. Yeah, but maybe about 100 books. They were on a couple of shelves. And I quickly counted. It was 84 books there were. 2 written from the Russian point of view, from the Soviet point of view. Imagine this. Just a couple of facts. 27 million Russians gave their lives so that I didn't have to sing Deutschland über alles and click my heels. Okay? And murder more people and gas more people and whatever. Because that's what would have been expected of us. And they seized the whole of Europe. Would have been a hell of a world, a hell of a situation. Those Nazis had seized the place. Anyway, 27 million, as I say. And contrary to what I believed, the war was won at Stalingrad. Second World War was won at Stalingrad. Effectively. And the proof of that is because the Allies only made the invasion of Italy at Salerno in September of 1943. The war had been on almost for 4 years. The war was finished. The old man was right. The war was, he said, it was finished. They only came in at the end of the war. They only ran across Europe. They only ran up into Europe to make sure that the rest of Europe that the Russians hadn't seized wouldn't fall into Russian hands, into Soviet hands. That's all. It's only the reason why they did it. They realised if they didn't get involved, they didn't want to get involved directly. They didn't want to put boots on the ground. They realised if they didn't do it, the Russians seized the whole of fucking Europe. Or the parts that they wanted to. Certainly would have seized Germany and Austria and whatever other parts they wanted. Who was going to oppose them? Who could oppose them? The Nazis were beaten. The greatest army in the world, von Paulus's Sixth Army, gone. Bing, bang, bong, gone. The Blitzkrieg Army. Anyway, I never forgot that. So that just made me cynical. It don't matter what anybody says. I have to rationalise it out in my mind. Because at the end of the day, you're responsible for yourself. You're responsible for what you think, what you put into your head, and what you put into your body, what you put into here, and what you put in, you listen to, and what you hear, and all the rest of it. You're responsible for all that. I don't want other people telling me this, because I've listened to all that. I've listened to all that propaganda all my life, and most of it has been lies. Most of it's lies. And it's lies because it emanates out from the very tip, right at the very tip of the intellectual tip of the pyramid. Intellectual part of the establishment. And they emanate it down through their professors and their agents, their intellectual agents. They emanate it all out. And it's all absorbed and subsumed as fact by the populace at large. I would have been the same if I hadn't met that man and had just been exposed to Western propaganda. It's like our history in Ireland, same sort of thing. Same type of thing. Anyway, I don't want to go on about it. It's just what's made me cynical. You know? We live in an extraordinary world. It's the old case. Everybody else is always wrong in the world. Especially among the political class. You never ever hear them put their hands up and say, I made a mistake. I'm truly sorry. I boo-booed. Never. Never. And of course we know as soon as their mouths move, they're lying. As soon as their mouths move, they're lying. They're lying. I learned that at a very early stage. So that's the world we live in, and that's why I'm cynical. And it's just the way of it. It's just the way of it. But I just thought I'd throw it in for what it's worth. We've loads more to discuss. There's loads more, because I haven't been on for a long time, and all this stuff's insane and it needs to come out. And hopefully I don't bore you with it all. Okay? Listen, we talk more.